And SEC Media Days beginning where the conference champion is going to be crowned in Atlanta. That's where we find Dennis Dodd and Barrett Sallee. You guys have been covering these things for a long time, but this one, last year's, it just seems like each year there are just more and more things to talk about. It's got to be great to get everybody together. What's it like on the ground there, Dennis?
Well, after COVID, after everything else, it's nice to see everybody, see faces again. And today, I think Barrett will agree, the season starts. Forget about Labor Day weekend. This is when it starts. Brian Kelly circled through here first. An unfamiliar face in the SEC, but a significant one at LSU.
Yeah, his first media days since he was at Cincinnati. Didn't have to do this, obviously, when he was at Notre Dame. But like Dennis said, this is the unofficial kickoff. You heard the State of the SEC speech from Greg Sankey. You know, he's the most powerful man in all of college athletics. He shows why. He lays the groundwork for what he envisions. And as we've heard and as we've seen, there's a lot of changes going on, and he's at the forefront of that.
We got Alabama meeting the media tomorrow, Georgia meeting the media a little bit later on in the week on Wednesday. Give us your storylines to watch.
Yeah, I think for Alabama, it's how do you get back on top? They've got the two best players in all of college football, and Bryce Young and Will Anderson. And for Nick Saban, it's about taking that next step. I think for Alabama specifically, it's how do you protect Bryce Young? It's a minor miracle that he won the Heisman Trophy last year because he didn't have an offensive line. Dennis and I could have probably started on that offensive line. It was that bad. So for Alabama, it's about getting back on top, and for Georgia, it's about sustaining success.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I'd stand up to that. But you're right, 41 sacks by that Alabama line, which was really kind of hidden in a championship run. Bryce Young made room for that offensive line to make plays. I mean, look, the biggest storyline here is Nick and Jimbo. They're not going to be here on the same day. I wonder why that was arranged like that. To answer the question about the little tiff during the summer, you know, they'll have their scripted lines, Barrett, as you said, to answer that. But I think beyond that, there's something to think about is who is the third best team in the SEC? Only in the SEC is who is the third best team a question. Is it Kentucky? Is it A&M? Is it LSU? Is it Florida? I think that's something we're talking about because, as usual, Georgia and Florida are on top. Or Georgia and Alabama, excuse me.
Yeah, Alabama is the slight favorite over Georgia, and then it's a big drop down to Texas A&M at 16-1, and then everybody else is at least 40-1 to win the conference. It's a conference that is going to be the exact same as it was a year ago and probably the exact same in the year or two to follow. Now we have Oklahoma and Texas that are going to join, but as of right now, the date for that is still set for 2025. That's 3 years down the road. Guys, what's the latest realignment buzz there in the SEC?
Right now, the realignment buzz is that there is no realignment buzz. Greg Sankey went through the car wash, and he said, look, he's not in any hurry. He understands that the landscape could change, so obviously that's subject to change. But right now, he looks around, and he said the additions of Texas and Oklahoma are bigger than what the Big Ten did with USC and UCLA. So right now, I mean, look, Greg has a standing offer to Notre Dame. Everybody has a standing offer to Notre Dame. But aside from that, I don't think that he views any team out there as profound enough and valuable enough to bring into this conference based on how much money they're making from TV partners.
Yeah, Chris, the presidents prefer to stand pat at 16 right now. But Greg Sankey was, strategic to mention they could be, quote unquote, nimble if something comes along. Notre Dame's not going to the SEC. I think we all agree about that. It would take a corresponding move from the Big Ten if they get Notre Dame. Now, I don't think that would necessarily mean that the SEC had to do anything. Notre Dame's going to have access to the playoff one way or the other, so it doesn't matter. I do think the Big Ten's going to be making more money than the SEC at the end of the day when these contracts are signed, but not by a lot, so it wouldn't mean a corresponding move. There's all kinds of consternation in the ACC where they already see a world where every school in that league is $50 million annually behind in revenue, and what that means for the ability to hire the next Dabo Swinney or if Urban Meyer becomes available. Some of those schools are going to have to cut because they are way behind the Big Ten and SEC, and I think that's one of the big talking points, not only here, but I think going forward in college athletics, because I don't know if people have noticed this summer, it's a Power 2 now. It's no longer a Power 5.
The two super conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, and the very latest on realignment was dropped by Dennis Dodd yesterday at CBSSports.com. You can read that in-depth article right now. Fellas, we'll say so long for now, but looking forward to much more throughout the week from Dennis Dodd and Barrett Sallee. We also have Josh Pate there at SEC Media Days in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. The Cover 3 guys will be all over it as well. Download and follow the pod today.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.